First, let's deal with the matters at hand here, the town hall debate on who is the best person, suited person to succeed Justice Willy Mutunga as Kenya's next Chief Justice. Nelson Ahavi had just talked about the question on Dr. Al-Nashir Vislam and his suitability owing to the award he gave to former Minister Nicholas B. Watt, 30 million shillings, that is against Dr. Ian West and others for defamation. You said he was right in whatever he did. Surely he was accepted.
I think, answering what Joseph said, I think the fact that he gave, Justice Visram gave a 30 million shilling award is not wrong in itself. I think what is important is not the decision to give 30 million, but the reasoning. Yeah? Because remember what a judgment is. It's the reasons for reaching a certain decision. So if his reasoning is anchored in law and is based on the facts that were presented before the court, then that is in order. So that's the only thing you can question about a judge, not the ultimate decision that they made.
Right.
And then I think, Hussein, I'll just tackle the question by Chakai of Bunge la Wananchi. He asked about the Kidero case and that just because Justice Wanjala did preside over that case and there has been allegations of bribery on it, whether it would affect his suitability.
Right.
I think in the case of what was said about Justice Tunoi was purely allegations. I don't think it was ever proved that it was in fact true. And so with that, I don't think that that can be used against any judge of the bench who actually sat within that bench, merely because allegations were made. And in fact, investigations were never, in fact, completed.
Including the specific judge referred to, Justice Smoky Machala.
Yes.
Okay, there's a question to you, Judy.
Yes, it's about the nomination of Justice Visram in 2011.
Yes.
Can I just what happened?
Yes.
Just closing the office on some day, and I think it was the end of the month of January 2011. And I heard on the news that all these men had been nominated to certain offices, the Chief Justice, the Attorney General's office, the Director of Public Prosecutions, and I think the Auditor General, something of the sort. What concerned me immediately, where are the women? Did we not, Patricia, the year just before, did we not just pass a constitution, you know, that ensured that there was a certain benchmark, you know, for both genders? And so we moved to court the very following day, and we appeared before Justice Musinga, who in 2 days or so considered that as to the extent that there was no gender balance and to the extent that there was no consultation, these nominations were unconstitutional. So I don't even know that Justice Visram had time to turn around and to decide what to do before this decision was made.
This shouldn't be held against him, in other words.
Absolutely not. Absolutely not. It shouldn't.
Okay.
Yeah.
Talk to me about Zamba Kitonga. There's a question addressed about Zamba Kitonga.
Yeah, I think that's from Bernadette.
Yeah.
Zamba Kitonga, now this Zamba Kitonga, what he brings from outside actually is a strength, because others are judicial officers who probably are approaching the whole of this process as the coronation time. Okay? While others are approaching it as a coronation, he brings himself as an outsider, but who has done a lot of work within the legal fraternity as the former chair of the Law Society of Kenya,
right.
But again midwifing the constitution that we have right now,
right.
And him as a peacemaker who could build consensus that finally delivered for us the Constitution 2010 that we enjoy right now.
Right.
That's a very great strength.
What about, Monari, the subtle murmurs that goes on, that go on in the corridors of justice in terms of the insider versus outsider? Justice Willy Mutunga's tenure. So many times we had him being referred to as an activist Chief Justice. The judiciary itself being referred to as an activist judiciary. And many people were not comfortable that he was an outsider. Do you think that is a factor?
There's nothing wrong for getting to get a Chief Justice who is not serving as a judge.
As a judge, yes.
And I think that's our Constitution is very clear on that. What the murmurs you're talking about, murmurs started because of the conduct of Justice Mutunga. Mutunga was thought of as an outsider who was bringing in fresh blood to the judiciary. That seemed to work for some time, but then others felt that no, it is not gelling, and he did fight corruption at the beginning and even towards the end, but it was unfortunate that as like corruption, it fights back even within the judiciary, and he lost out. That is not the reason to get an outsider to serve in the judiciary.
You don't think it's going to be a factor at all?
Can I tell you? The only time being an outsider or an insider becomes an issue is if as an outsider you go and look down upon the insiders and sort of dismiss them as not capable.
Did that happen?
Yes.
Did that happen in Mutunga's tenure? You think it happened?
Okay.
It happened a lot.
I don't know that it did. No, but Hussein, this is important. It's important that I tell you this. We sit on different sides of the bench. They are the ones on the bar and they are the ones on the bench. To be honest, I think we all regard ourselves as members of the legal profession and the judiciary, and it is possible to get somebody from either side, provided we respect those we find on either side of the divide.
Nelson, you're saying it happened?
Yes, it happened. In fact, Parliament...
Do you think it's a factor?
It is a big factor. On the 11th of February 2016, Parliament said the biggest problem that bedeviled Mutunga's tenure was the fact that he came in as an outsider with very limited experience in public service. And what he did not run the judiciary. He ran out the insiders from the judiciary. And the results were quite catastrophic. And that will explain why it was the end of his tenure. There was a lot of division. So much as the entry of an outsider may be welcome, it must be weighed against such a yardsticks.
Okay.
Yes.
Right. I'll come back to the... I mean, we have to also ask the question whether he was being independent so as to be labeled as an activist Chief Justice or not. But let me get again questions, another round of questions from the audience. I'll start with the gentleman here. Come to you.
Okay, thank you. My name is Udoto Kongani Udoto, and I'm one of the guys who did apply for this job for the Chief Justice.
Okay.
And
what is your background?
Thank you, thank you.
What is your background, very briefly, if you applied for the
background?
Chief Justice?
Is like I'm a lawyer.
Yeah, okay.
I'm a properly trained lawyer.
Okay.
And I think that's the much I can say.
All right, okay, that's enough.
Yeah.
That's enough, yes. Your question, please.
So I want to ask the panel a general question concerning the relationship between the executive, the legislature, and the judiciary. And my question stems from the old constitution to the present constitution. All Kenyans woke up and they decided that they want to get themselves a new constitution on the grounds that the old constitution was oppressive. The suppression mostly was political. And when we look at the executive arm of the government, it actually liberated itself from this oppression. First, the aspect of the age limit on the presidency was removed. Secondly, the government was devolved. When we look at the judiciary, the legislature, the time period for the functioning of the parliament was no more restricted or was no more the decision of one man, as it used to be. But when we come to the judiciary, it's like these restrictions are still there. One, we have been told here by the panel that there is one judge who became a judge at the age of 34. And when I applied for this position, I was prepared to see a country which is going to have a young Chief Justice. Yeah. But to my surprise...
At what age, if you don't mind?
Yeah.
At what age? How old are you, if you don't mind?
I'm 38.
38, okay.
At my surprise, I woke up and was told that I don't qualify simply because Article 166 of the Constitution locked me out on the basis of experience. Protracting the experience of the requirement for a judge to 15 years in Kenya, which we demand to be an open and democratic society, is actually... I don't think, to you people, I want to ask you that question, if it's sensible. Whereas if we compare ourselves to countries like America, there is no such a restriction.
Right.
When we look to countries like Britain, there's no such a restriction. So I want to ask the panelists, how come that the legal arm of this, and the judiciary, as the legal fraternity in this country, has left itself to be suppressed by oppressive rules of law, even
and
in
so
the
you're not satisfied with what happened, that you did not make the list?
I am not.
You're not
Definitely I am not.
Okay, thank you very much. Harun Dubi?
Do I stand?
Yes, please.
Okay. Thank you very much. As Hussein has already introduced me. Hussein, I think there is a lot to say about tonight's debate.
Yes.
The first thing I must say is that you asked the wrong question. Because it is not about the character of individuals we're discussing, even if it is important. But I think we should be discussing the character of the judiciary. The judiciary is the last bastion between an oppressed mwananchi and an all-powerful government. 2007 happened because people lacked confidence in the judiciary.
Okay.
So the question would be,
Yes.
what kind of judiciary do we want to see? What kind of leadership do we want to see in that judiciary that fosters confidence from Mwananchi, rather than discussing individuals whom we are already discussing their character, good and bad things, without giving them notice or even having them a right of reply? So, which is what we all demand. This is an adversarial system. So I think in that regard, I think it's we got it slightly wrong, but it's still okay.
Right.
The confidence I expected from the judiciary should have been first inspired by the Judicial Service Commission. One, when they purported to shortlist people, all the applicants, other than perhaps the gentleman about age, which is a legal requirement, would have attained the legal expectations of the Constitution.
Okay.
So they should all have been interviewed, because other questions around integrity or questions around Chapter 6, they would arise only at the time of the interviews.
Okay.
You can't sit and guillotine people out.
All right.
The third
Very
thing,
briefly,
very briefly.
because there are a lot of people who want
Very
to
well,
ask
yes.
questions.
The last thing I wanted to say about, now that you have tempted me to talk about the conversation we've had, is about that 30 million award. The 30 million.
Tempt you. You were tempted.
Yes, I was tempted.
Okay.
The 30 million award, we must say that there is a difference between reputation and power. Two judges who also sued from matters arising from the same transaction or offense were awarded 2 million shillings each, Justice Quach and Justice Gisheru. How can it be that a politician who is fair game gets awarded much more money than a judge whose reputation and integrity is far higher? Thank you.
Our colleague at Citizen Butagi, sorry, I'll come up to you.
My name is Mutegi Njao, I work for Citizen. My concern is about some of the answers given here. The first is that you said during the appointment or election of Justice Mutunga, people feared, or people are fearing now because of the way it was conducted, which means a lot of people did not apply because of what you call humiliation. Now, in view of that, therefore, do you think the Judicial Service Commission is going to give us a competent and qualified Chief Justice? Because you say people fear, and I don't think if you fear to do an interview, then you deserve to be a Chief Justice.
If you fear, you do not deserve.
You don't deserve. If you have bones in your closet. Two, the other question is about corruption. I remember very well Chief Justice Gisheru, when he was doing the Oko inquiry in Kisumu. One morning, when he went home on Friday, he found 20 million shillings deposited in his bank account. And he told, when he went back on Monday, he said, whoever put his 20 million in his bank account should remove the money. And immediately after that, the Oko Commission was disbanded without completing the inquiry. Now, the question is, do we have a person of that integrity among the 6 who, as she said, will not find, will find something in his bank account and refuse?
Okay.
And the two, if you say that lawyers are the ones who bring corruption to judges, and you are in the Law Society of Kenya, Mr. Apollo Boya, what have you done about that?
Okay. I'll get the lady back there.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Okay, Patricia Nyaundi from KNHR. I think what I would wish to hear from the panel is a statement on where we are in terms of what we had envisioned with the Constitution 2010 and the role of the judiciary, how far Mutunga had progressed that, and I think when I came, what I thought would be very important is whether we would be spelling out the TORs for the JSC, because they bear the responsibility of delivering the Chief Justice that is required to deliver what we are saying as a country is very important.
Okay.
So, I mean, just for instance, to bait Judy here, is when we look, how is the judiciary going to deliver the two-third rule? Because I think the last time this appeared before the Supreme Court, we got a shocking that some of the constitutional provisions are merely aspirational. So what we really are looking for is how do we make clear to the JSC what it is, how we expect them to deliver on their mandate.
Okay.
And I would be very happy to hear this from the panel.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Lady back there, yes.
Thank you. My name is Sheila Mengesa. I would like to ask Judith Ongare my question. Okay, we've had the constitution in place for 5 years and some months.
Yeah. And
as the lady in front there has said, Article 27, Sub-Article 8 provides for the two-third gender rule. And looking at the current Supreme Court, there is only one female judge. And among the shortlisted candidates for the post of the CJ, there is only one female judge. So don't you think that Justice Roslyn Nambuye qualifies for that position, considering that she is, okay, from my opinion, she is a woman of integrity, she has the capability to lead, and she qualifies because as a country, we have to work towards attaining the two-third gender rule so that we don't just have a constitution in writing, which we do not enforce.
Okay, Tangori will respond to that. I don't know if Tangori is the right person to respond to that, though.
Position is not,
you know.
Let's go ahead.
I will ask my question. I'm Willis Misare from the Kenya School of Law.
Okay.
I had two general questions. One to Mr. Nelson Harvey.
One question, please.
One question. Okay, with regards to the chronicles he made, we've read about the jury junta thing he said. So we have lawyers being members of the Judicial Service Commission who are responsible for picking judges. And then these very lawyers still practice before the same judges. And if you read Mr. Harvey's allegations, you get that one of the very senior lawyers he mentioned was in the Judicial Service Commission. Okay. So when we have lawyers having these powers to pick the judges, don't you think that this influence and the cartels you talk about will always remain? And then to Gladys Sholay, one of the remarks I still remember when she left the judiciary was that you are prosecuting the wrong people. It clearly means that something wrong was done and was the right person who should have been prosecuted. You've been very bold with us tonight. I request that you boldly tell us who the right people are, because in prosecuting them, we might finally get a cure to the problems in the judiciary.
But we also avoiding going into the merits of her case. The final question to that gentleman. We'll come back to that now.
My name is Karoki William from Kenya School of Law, and it's a follow-up to his question. The Constitution says that judicial authority is derived from the people. So, in fact, we are here discussing the character of these people. Do you think, as my learned CDA has said, that we might actually be asking the wrong question? Because, as he has said, that it is lawyers who are choosing these people. Right. And we have had comments that the president has these people who are advocating for this and this. Do you think the Judicial Service Commission, as currently it is constituted, do you think it is serving the interest of the Mwananchi? Okay. Or do you think it is the interest of politicians and other people? Thank you.
Okay. And that question you asked, what Harun Dubi also talked about. First, the questions are coming from you regarding specific judges, and we're talking about their profiles, and we're talking about rulings they have made. I don't know if any of the panelists think there's a problem as regards, discussing such about them. I'll start with Harvey.
Well, judicial authority derives from the people. I think all of us here constitute the people. The commissioners at the Judicial Service Commission constitute the people. So I think the people are entitled to discuss these issues. And if we don't discuss these issues, then some people who think they speak for some people will end up discussing these things and make a decision for you. So it is in order that we speak. Now, whilst I'm still at it, can I answer their questions? Yes. Now, Harun,
not all of them, just
yeah, I'll just answer your question, Miare.
Yeah.
As regards the hefty award, I think we need to let that matter rest, because I honestly believe if it were not for that particular then former prominent cabinet minister, nobody would have made noise about this award. And in all fairness, the decision was well reasoned, and it forms a big precedent in the practice of defamation and libel. In fact, I will recommend, my friend, that you read that decision carefully, together with the decision in England concerning Sir Elton John, where he was actually awarded 100 million. So this is peanuts. Now, Miare, I think I need to concur with you. The jury junta is a real notorious cartel that has proliferated the Judicial Service Commission and the judiciary. Now, out of clarity, Parliament has recommended that if a member of the Law Society of Kenya is recommended to be a commissioner, then he is of necessity supposed to step down and not practice law for the period that he serves as a commissioner. And I think that is for good order, because all of a sudden, advocates with no known credential whatsoever in litigation tend to gain prominence when they get appointment to the Judicial Service Commission, because they have the ability to appear before the employees. What do you expect? It's very poetic. They will get a decision in their favor. So that if Harvey here becomes a representative of the LSK to the Judicial Service Commission, I should not practice law for that period of time. And I think to that extent we'll be able to ensure fidelity, so that these lawyers that my colleague Senior Munari talks about being the conduits of corruption will be cut off.
Okay.
Patricia Nyamundi's question.
Yes.
Which is very important. Where are we, and where we are where we are because of where we have come from. The fact that we can sit here today and discuss these issues openly means that we have come from far. I remember when I first started practice, judges will be picked in the night and in the morning driven to State House. We will first know that they are judges after they've been sworn in. Two things. Now, two judges. One judge was appointed by mistake. On removing the wig, the president said, "This is not the fellow I wanted." Another judge, a contingent of policemen was sent to his home to pick him, but because he was notorious with clients' money, when he saw the Land Rover, he ran away. And he was arrested by his tea plantation.
Okay.
That is where we have come from.
Okay.
And this is where we have reached now.
Okay. Right. Sangari, there's a specific question to you.
Yeah. Very quickly to just say that anyone who seeks to occupy the office of the Chief Justice, the head of the third arm of government, must be willing to have their character scrutinized in public. I see nothing absolutely wrong, and all we are saying, can we do it with the decorum that these judges deserve? And indeed, character of that person is important. Why? Because a team is as good as its captain. So we need to be able to deal with that.
Right.
But on the gender issue, Hussein, you'll be surprised by the answer that I have, that Patricia and Shira raised. You see, all the issues about gender and many other issues in the Constitution end up in the courts. The courts therefore must know, and the Chief Justice and the JSC must know. They must clean up their house before the matters end there. So surely we cannot be talking about the Supreme Court not meeting the gender threshold, and yet when we come from wherever we come from, the first place we go to is the court. But Sheila, just to perhaps encourage you, in 2011, when the Supreme Court judges were nominated, we went to the High Court and we said that the gender threshold was not met, and indeed the appointment, there was no, the process was stayed until the case was heard and determined. The comments were not very good. Sheila, I'd urge you to read that judgment. We were told that we should keep our missiles at bay until an opportunity arises. But let me say that the struggle continues. The judges who then made that decision, I think, have since moved on, because it's also been a learning process in many ways. Okay. So yes.
All right, thank you very much. Apollo Boya, question to you.
Yeah, Tegi asked me a question.
What are you doing about the cartels and corruption among lawyers?
Yes, of course now I don't speak on behalf of LSK because I've since left, but I want to talk about, there are two limbs to the question. People fearing to apply, and I agree with Mutegi. If you don't want to apply, then you don't come and complain later on. And if you are scared for being scrutinized, as my landed senior Judy has said, indeed, I must tell you a story. When the advertisement came out, the first person I ran to was Judy. She can tell you. And I told Judy, Judy, please apply. She can confirm. And please, let's get other women also.
Okay.
Yeah, and round them and apply. Of course, it's now under the water. Judy never applied.
Right.
Now, on what the LSK I know is doing, at least during my time, first of all, proving a nexus of corruption between a lawyer and a judge is extremely very difficult. Okay? Very, very difficult. You can say, yes, from the way this thing has gone, you know, you hear rumors and murmurs, but because we are in a country that applies the rule of law, getting that nexus is so difficult. Just the way you saw how proving whether there was 50 million or 200 million it was difficult.
Okay.
But for the lawyers who take clients' money, at the time I was leaving, I know we had around 57 disbarred from practicing at all, and almost a similar number who were suspended for doing that.
Right, I want to get your winding remarks. You'll respond. I want to get your winding remarks.
Yes.
And I'll start with you. Your winding remarks on this. What do you expect next week from JSC? What Harun Dubi asked in terms of what kind of judiciary you want to see. And within the JSC, a question has been asked whether you think they'll conduct a fair process. It's in the public knowledge. We don't know if it's a fact. You are the lawyers. That there's a lot of lobbying within the JSC itself, whether they'll be competent enough to give Kenya the Chief Justice they want. As you wind up. Okay.
I think what comes out clearly, and like I said, the first Judicial Service Commission were the ones who set the foundation on this. And I think they've learnt a lot over time, and also from the comments that were made by people on how they should conduct themselves. I believe that they will not humiliate judges anymore when they, or the candidates before them. I also believe that they have seen what the judiciary actually requires. We are able to see that these were the failings of William Mutunga, or these were the strengths of William Mutunga. Therefore, it helps them redefine the kind of Chief Justice that they want. And also experience has shown us. One, we need a Chief Justice who will be who will lead the judiciary as being the moral compass for the country. That's one. And two, you want a Chief Justice that has the right personality to be able to steer the judiciary and mobilize and carry together the entire judicial team and staff to go the right direction. Because you do not want somebody who's divisive, but you also want somebody who knows I can link with them. And I think some of the personalities of the people who've not been mentioned as candidates may be people who cannot inspire confidence from their peers, and that is going to cause a problem. So the Judicial Service Commission should look in that direction.
All right. Evans Munari, your winding comments.
The judiciary is as good as its Chief Justice. I want a Chief Justice who will bring confidence into the judiciary and who will bring confidence to my clients and the public. I want to know that when I file cases or when I go to defend cases, I defend them knowing that the person deciding that case will decide that case according to the law and according to the facts, not according to any other influences. And I want a Chief Justice who can instill that discipline in his judges and in his magistrates.
Okay. Yeah. Judy.
I would like a Chief Justice who leads from the front, and a Chief Justice who knows what's happening outside the judiciary offices, who knows that people out there, like for example, just now we have had the cap placed on the bank interest rates. And what that means is that the banks are going to take a risk on the lending that they do. And so if the cases take forever in the commercial courts because they cannot be decided too quickly, the banks may well not be able to cushion, the loss that they get as a result of that. So I want the kind of judge who knows that perhaps it's a time, a Chief Justice who knows that perhaps at this point in life we need more judges in the commercial court than we need elsewhere. But let me just quickly also state this, Hussein, before you go, I know time it's not on your side, that it is possible, Mutegi, that there were not enough, there are many people out there who are qualified to apply for the position of Chief Justice but did not do it because they feared to be humiliated. And therefore I want to be courageous enough to say the JSC may find that it doesn't have the ideal candidate to take this country forward as a Chief Justice. And I hope they'll be courageous enough to say, let us ask people to reapply.
And go to
exactly.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, I just have a few suggestions or recommendations to the Judicial Service Commission.
You can make it one.
Until now, the judiciary has been a plane flying without a pilot. It has actually been on autopilot for the last 5 years. We beseech you to give a pilot to this institution. And as you do so, be very fair to the candidates. Interrogate them, interview them, but respect their integrity. And then we have been informed that these interviews will be in public. We do not know. Will the JSC award marks immediately after the conclusion of an interview for a particular candidate? My advice should be they need to take all the candidates sequentially, wait until after the conclusion of the interviews, and then evaluate them together. That way we should be able to get a good pilot so that this plane does not crash land as most likely.
Very briefly, Apollo, your winding comments. And the question of the 38-year-old, and somebody actually saying on Twitter, it's an epic question. He talked about how he was locked out and talking about experience, saying this is very oppressive. Should this change? And the winding remarks.
Okay, let me start with that. Experience is key in this institution. You just don't come. Even me, myself, despite that I have the qualifications to be the Chief Justice of Kenya as I speak right now, because this is my 16th year in practice, I don't consider myself as suitable for that position right now. So experience is key, and we can't wish it away. Coming to my final remarks, JSC also has got the leeway to tell us that from the candidates that we have right now, we don't think that these are the appropriate candidates, and we can go back to the drawing board. But finally, if at all we end up with a candidate, the kind of Chief Justice I would like to see, the Chief Justice who of course gives leadership, but ensures that also the Supreme Court does not hog jurisdiction that they don't have for minor things. They remain with epic issues, and so that we have reasoned jurisprudence.
All right, we thank you very much. We thank you, our panelists. We thank you, our audience, for your questions. And on Twitter, and keep talking, the hashtag is Mutunga Succession. Thank you for watching. I hope this has been very informative to you as we wait to see what will happen next week. I want to say good night, but not yet. Don't sleep yet. I'm handing you back to Lillian Muli with the news. Thank you.